Okay, I have my 2006 Mazda Tribute here. We're going to be removing and replacing the steering wheel on here, and it's actually pretty simple. The design on the 2006 model. I don't know for sure when they changed it. I didn't look that up, but I know it was different on a 2008. But I've just got a 7mm just on my little screwdriver, and I've got a 10mm, and that's just because I just have this part of the steering wheel, and this actually bolts to the other part we're going to be taking loose. So we're going to go ahead and get in the vehicle and we'll get started here. Okay, so this is the steering wheel. You can see not only is this thing really peeling off here and ugly, but the main problem is that it's like really loose on here. It's loose to the point where it's just moving around on the steering wheel. So that's the reason that we're going to go ahead and just remove it and replace it. Now, the steering wheel I have over there, you've seen it has the airbag and everything on it. So we don't have to worry about swapping that. I will say if you're getting one from a salvage yard, it's cheaper to remove that airbag because it's quite a bit for those. But you know you may be replacing it because the airbag went off, and you need to replace the steering wheel, or if it was off center, this is how you would remove it for whatever reason. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we've got to do is get down here underneath, and you can see this little panel right here, and basically it just kind of pops in there. Just give it a little pull with your fingernail and it'll pop out. It should turn loose. Okay, so there you have it. It's just goes up in there into those little areas, and then these little snaps in the back help hold it into place. And you can just kind of see, once you got that out, we can see up in there a little bit. And it just pushes in there. So that's the first thing you do, is remove this piece. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take and disconnect this negative cable here before we go to fiddling with anything with the steering wheel there. Okay, with that disconnected, I think they recommend leaving it and let it discharge for like 10 minutes or so, but we'll let it discharge for a minute. Okay, so now we're going to come under here. I've got my 7mm with just need an extension. And if we look right under here, you can see this rusty looking bolt right there. That is a 7mm. And we're just going to take and get up in there and see if I can. Okay, and there we are, and we're just going to turn this. It's maybe a little bit stuck, but we're going to turn this, and the steering wheel is going to come off of here. So we'll have to also get our connections loose, but we can also pull it back a little bit before we. But we're going to go ahead. I said I've got it loose, so I'm just going to continue to turn this until I get this entirely loose, and I'll show you in a minute. We go to pushing this back, it'll make more sense to you. But we do have like 2 connections to get loose, and you can see it's already moving it. But this just pushes it right off of that spline, or the splines rather. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it completely loose, and then I'm going to work on my 2 connections that I have. But we have to turn this until we can we can just lift it completely off. So I'm just going to keep turning it here, and then I will get under there and get those connections. Okay, now one thing I didn't mention, make sure that you got your steering wheel straight before you, so you'll know when you go to putting this back. But I just basically kept turning it until I got it completely loose here now, and it will lift off here. And with it off, we can easily get these connections. We got one that is connected right here, and we can disconnect that. Let me just flip it over here. So we got this one that we can disconnect right here, and then we got this one right here. I said this is very easy. Just push down on that, and this one has a little locking tab right there. Okay, so I had to get my other hand. Just push this right back here, and it pops it up off of that. So you just push right back here at the back, and then it slides right out. So you just have to push right at the back there. So there are my connections. I'm going to leave that in that position, and we have it completely disconnected. Now this mechanism, I'll show you what exactly we were doing. There is the 7mm we were turning counterclockwise. Now as we turn that, it rotates this mechanism. You can see the threads on that. So as you're turning that, it tightens it onto your threads right there, and then it pulls it right onto those splines. So after you get it tight, it just locks it on there. So it won't come off unless you loosen this, and you just tighten it until it's good and snug and it has no wiggle or movement to it. So on my other one, I don't have this on here. So what I have to do is I have to get a Torx bit, and I have to take these out, and that will remove this cover that's going around this part. And once I get this off, I can show you this. It'll make more sense. I'll just kind of demonstrate what I was doing there. But very easy to get this off of here, and I really like this setup. Okay, so I just got these setting by each other, and you can see how this has the plastic piece on it. Got a T20. We've got 4 screws holding it on, and we're just going to take these out, and we'll just transfer this over. This just happens to be the way that I had removed it, because I didn't need all this. I just needed this steering wheel. So I'm just transferring this over to this. Okay, we got our 4 screws out, and this will just lift right off of here. And when we get this other piece, we'll just put it right back onto it. Now this is the mechanism that you turn this and fasten it to the splines on the steering column. So now we have 4 of these 10mm, and we're just going to go ahead and take each one of these out, and that will just unbolt this from the steering wheel. Okay, so I'm just removing these one at a time. These are a locking nut, but they're not very difficult to remove. So we're just going to get these other 2, and then we'll have this piece right here loose. Okay, so now we've got all those out, we can just lift this up and off of here, and we're just going to transfer it right over here. So I just need to take these off. Now it did have this piece here that this one doesn't have, but I don't see it making much difference. These are both a 2006, so I know everything is the same, and I'm thinking this is the same through many years. Probably just depends on where it was made at. Okay, now I'm ready to set this back down onto these studs. And we're just going to tighten our locking nuts back up. And you can see the backside condition of this too, and it's like tearing right here. But it was really loose. Don't know why it's in such bad condition. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just snug those down. Okay, I took this back off temporarily because I forgot to show you this. It's a clever little mechanism. Basically said you got the 7mm there, and you get, now if you watch this, you can see the threads rotating as I'm turning that right there. So that's all you're doing, and it's what makes it so simple to remove this. Now, like I said, you want to make sure that you got this straight up and down before you slip it on. So you want to make sure that you're as straight as possible, and then, you know, just pretend that the steering wheel's on here, but you can see that rotate, and that just starts tightening that thread down on there until it's tight enough and it does not have any wiggle room. So that's all it is. So it's kind of slow. You know, you could, if you used a electric impact or cordless or whatever, it would definitely speed this up. So that's all it is to removing that. So I'm going counterclockwise again. So I'm loosening it back off. So you only have to move it so much, and then once you get to a certain point, which I think I'm at, a little bit more. Once you get to a certain point, it just comes right off of there. But it has to be completely loose from those threads. And there we have it. So that's all there is to that mechanism. And now I'm just going to bolt it back down. But I wanted to show you that just so it'd make more sense. It does have like an alignment dot to keep it straight up and down. So, but the main thing is just to make sure your steering wheel is as straight as possible, and when before you remove it, and then when you put it back on, and you won't have any issues with that. Okay, so those are snug, and we're just replacing this piece, and we've got our 4 little T20s that we put back in here, and that's all there is to this. Okay, so the plastic piece is secured back with the T20s, and now we're ready just to move it over to the vehicle here. Like I said, all we have to do is line up the steering wheel the way that we removed it. Now, before that we do that, we're going to go ahead and make our connections because they're easier to do with it down like this. So go ahead and connect that. And then we're going to make our connection right here. Make sure it's snapped firmly into place. Right now we're just going to take and get it straight and centered like we had it before. And now the only thing that we have to do is just get under with our 7mm here, and we're just going to go ahead and start tightening that, and we'll snug it up. So we're going to go ahead and just get under here, and we'll locate our screw here. We've got some wires kind of in the way, blocking the view here. But there is the piece that we need to get. It's hidden up in there. It's kind of rusty, but there it is. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to keep turning this clockwise, just like we did before. You can see it right there. We're just going to go ahead and just turn that clockwise until it's all the way as tight and we have no wiggle in the steering wheel. Okay, and it's going to feel like you're turning on it for a bit, but it will tighten up, and I'm just snugging it down with a small little 1/4 inch ratchet. But we've got it good and snug. And now we're ready to go ahead and just replace our little plastic piece here. And it said it just has these little places right here that go up into the back there, and there's actually a couple of spots that they go into that you can see as you get back here, and they just go right up into their little plastic spots, and then this will just pop right back into place, and you'll hear it snap just like that, so you know you got it in there good. And that's all there is to that. Okay, we just went ahead and made our connection on our negative cable here now. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. This steering wheel definitely looks a lot better. It's made a tremendous difference in here. If you've been following with this vehicle, I replaced the entire interior. These came out of a 2006 Mariner, and they fit in here perfectly. And the Mariner actually has heated seats, and they do work as well. But anyways, we've got this on here. It's a very, very simple project. Nothing to remove this thing and replace it. I really like the way that it was designed on these years. But that's going to conclude this video. If you found it helpful, please give the video a like. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.